Chapter 4. Hundreds of masked faces stared ahead, silently watching the procession as it slowly made its way through the streets. "Sorry I'm late." A hand fell on my arm, and I turned to see Christina standing beside me in the smoky haze. She adjusted the straps on her government-issued respirator mask, the imposing black apparatus, the only defense we had when outside for periods longer than 20 minutes. I pulled her in for a quick hug. "Don't worry about it. I'm just so glad you were able to come." "Course I wouldn't miss Lilica's parade for the world." Her words came out muffled, trapped between the barrier of the mask, as she threw me a wink and gestured toward the street. "When is she up?" "I think she's next." I scanned the group of children waiting in line behind a float. Every year, at the end of August, we celebrated Restoration Day, a day that observed the changing of the flag. Gone was the old banner of red, white, and blue, the remnants of a freedom we were told had grown too dangerous. We now bore a solid swath of gold, representing triumph over autonomy. The stifling patriotism and propaganda always pressed against my chest like a stone, a heaviness that paralyzed me. My mother used to speak of the shift, the time before the changing of the flag. She had only been a child, but she remembered the roundups and imprisonments plastered across screens, the systematic elimination of people who had dared to rise up against the structure of a new government, people who had become threats to the fundamentals of our collective unity. But this wasn't unity. It was nothing but compulsory nationalism, blindfolding us all. And there was my daughter, Lilica, materializing through the crowd with the flag held high, a figurehead of a new generation, boldly rushing forth into arms that would only restrain her. "Mommy!" Lilica's cheerful voice rose above the drum beats as she enthusiastically waved to me from the edge of the parade, pulling me from the weight of my thoughts. "Look at her, she's so adorable." Christina leaned in close to me, her wide smile faintly visible through the transparent screen of her polymer mask. "Where's Trendon?" I sighed and brushed a strand of hair from my face. "He's at home, packing for a convention in D.C. this afternoon. He said he wouldn't be able to make it." "Oh, that's too bad." "Yeah, it is." The lie burned on my tongue. There were some things I could not bring myself to share with Christina, and this was one of them. I kept the secret of my dying marriage tucked away so tight, as if the very act of my silence could rectify the damage. The strain around us had grown, compressing after our conversation in the kitchen about Lilica, and as the weeks went by, I found myself struggling to even look at him. I had been relieved when he told me he would be gone for the weekend. It would be a reprieve from the tense silence and watchful looks he gave Lilica, as if he was just waiting for her to do something wrong, waiting for an excuse to send her away. I was ensnared in a marriage I could not leave, the bindings of a union that locked us in place. The grid did not support separation, stressing that it went against the fundamental values of unity. Divorce was a fracture of the family unit, a dark stain that would strip us of our parental rights. There was no way out. I was required to play the role of dutiful wife, forced to live with the choices I had made. I bit my lip, trying to ignore the feeling of gravity slipping beneath me and the scream lodged in my throat as the parade round wound its way through the streets, feet marching in step, the ominous echo of drum beats the only sound among the stoic silence of the crowd, as my daughter's tiny form was swallowed up momentarily by the procession. Lilica's voice rang out from the back seat as we pulled into the driveway. "Look, Daddy's still here!" Tensing up, I glanced over to see Trendon's Jeep still parked on the street, and released a stiff sigh as Lilica hopped out of the car and ran up the walkway, the excitement from the parade still resonating off her like a wave of energy. Following her to the door, I saw Trendon sitting on the couch as Lilica bounded inside. "Daddy, the parade was so fun. I held the flag so good." His eyes grew hard as he looked at me. "Lilica, please go to your room." "But Daddy, I want to tell you about—" "Lilica, in your room, now." His voice was stony, and a chill washed through me as I watched Lilica deflate, her eyes brimming with tears of confusion. Placing my hand on her back, I motioned for her to go. "What's going on, Trendon? I thought you had a plane to catch." "I did." "Well, what happened?" "I had to cancel it." "Why?" I set my purse down on the counter beside the door, trying to still the creeping feeling of dread inside me. The look on his face was cold and calculated, as if he were sizing me up, planning his next move, and then he made it. Bending down, he reached for something behind him on the floor. In his hands, he held my bag of medical supplies, turning it over slowly as if they contained explosives ready to detonate at any moment. Would you care to explain to me what this is doing in our house? The creeping dread now crashed against me in a dizzying tidal wave. I sucked in a breath, my heart lurching in my chest as I tried to hide the tremble in my voice. Where did you find that? I was looking for my collapsible suitcase in the closet. My mind scrambled around, grasping for a cohesive explanation, something that would diminish the consequence of the truth. But I came up blank. Caught in the headlights of Trendon's frigid stare, all that escaped my mouth was a long exhale. You know it is my duty to report this. Trendon, my voice came out pleading, and as I gripped the edge of the counter for support, I'm your wife. That is irrelevant. His tone was hollow and composed as he stood from the couch and walked over to me. You have broken the law. Do you think our marital arrangement has anything to do with that? In fact, you assuming I would do anything less than my civil duty tells me you are living in some deep state of delusion. Jesus Christ, are you serious? A vile loathing slammed into me as I stared at him and his closely cropped hair, his vacant eyes, his complete inability to think beyond the rules handed to him like oppressive scripture. When had he become so mechanical and unmoving? I couldn't even remember anymore. Yes, Seren, I am very serious. What are you going to do, throw me in jail? I spat my words at him, bitter and mocking, still unable to wrap my mind around what he was saying to me. What I'm going to do, Seren, is give you a choice. You can either go through the process of a state trial, which might grant you a shorter sentence, given that you were caught only in possession of illegal substances and not distributing them. He paused for a moment, his jaw clenched in thought, eyes sharp and boring into me. You aren't distributing them, are you? I shook my head vehemently, my breath catching in my throat as my narrative uncurled like a shield, hoping to buffer the damage. No, of course not. Listen, Trendon, let me explain. I have those medical supplies for Lilica. They really help her when she gets sick. Do you remember what happened last time she was given antibiotics? She ended up in the hospital. We almost lost her. That haunting memory from 2 years ago rushed back, her lying lifeless and pale, tubes snaking through her body, the crushing helplessness and fear as she drifted further away from me. Had I not, in a state of frantic desperation, slipped her that herbal compound when no one was looking, I don't know what would have happened. The thought of it still made the earth tilt beneath my feet. What are you talking about, Seren? His jaw tightened as he glowered down at me, the sharpness of his words slicing through the air. I bit my lip. I had said too much. My pulse pounded out a desperate rhythm within my chest as I grappled to find some kind of footing. Trendon. My voice came out in a whispered plea as I placed my hand on his chest, hoping my touch would awaken something inside him, bring him back to me. These herbs have been helping her. Our daughter. Isn't it our job as parents to do everything in our power to keep our children healthy? A silence took hold of him as his shoulders slumped, his eyes softening and shifting around, mind locked in some battle I would never be able to understand. Seren. He spoke my name like a long exhale, a flicker of softness washing across his face, but just as quickly as it came over him, it was gone, and something cold slithered over his gaze once more as he shook his head. Like I said, I'm giving you a choice. You know what needs to happen. You can either go to trial, revoke your medical license, and serve your time of 5 years, or you can commit yourself to 1 year at the state facility, and the charges against you will be expunged. My heart plummeted, the room growing distorted as I felt my entire world implode around me. The facility was the place people voluntarily entered, but never came out the same. A government-run camp intent on deprogramming those who believed they had fallen prey to the underground propaganda of dissonant thinkers. From what I had heard, they pumped you full of psychiatric drugs, isolated you, and exposed you to a battery of tests, performing what they called therapeutic cleansing. A harsh whisper tumbled from my lips. I'm not going to the facility. Trenton took me by the arms. It would be for your own good, Seren. I'm worried about you. His voice grew placating, as if he were speaking to a misguided child. I don't want to see you spiral into the dangerous mindset of the outliers. Those people are mentally ill. I yanked myself away from him as bile rose in the back of my throat. Either choice would strip me of everything that was important to me: my cognitive function, my medical career, my daughter. The sickening weight of defeat crashed into me, choking my breath as hot tears pricked at my eyes. Trendon, please, don't do this. I'm sorry, Seren. I truly am. This isn't easy for me, you know that, but it's what needs to be done. His voice grew soft, but his eyes betrayed him. I could find no remorse there, only a hardened shell, and the sudden memory of our wedding day struck me with a mocking cruelty. The tender look on his face as he had slid the ring onto my finger, all his lofty promises now withered and unraveling between us. Where did he go? When had I lost him so completely? When had the man I married become so devoted to a society that it only took from him? Did he not see it? Did he not see the cracks in the foundation? With a sigh, he calmly walked back to the couch and picked up the medical bag, looking at it as if it were the closing scene in our last sorrowful act. You have tonight to decide what you want to do. In the morning, I will have to bring this to the authorities.